He took an electrical cord. You know, they made this, he made it sound like it just happened so fast. He took her life. He took her life. He took that electrical cord. These are his words. And he choked her out with that electrical cord until she passed out. Okay? Not once, but many times she kept waking up. And finally, he took that cord and choked her out till she passed out. Then he took a knife of some kind and he slit her throat. And he slit her throat. Why? Why did he slit her throat? He could have stood up and walked out. He could have, left her there. He didn't have to kill her.
Powerful words. But before we watch this parole hearing, we're going to take a blast to the past of 2021 to watch this man's commutation hearing. At the end of it, we'll fast forward all the way to June 2024 to then watch his parole hearing. With that, let's jump in.
Good afternoon, Mr. Edwards.
Good afternoon.
You doing all right this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am, doing great, and thank you all for this opportunity.
All right. So she has explained the process to you, so I'll just read some identifying information and we'll get started. So, Mr. Edwards, you're here before the pardon board. You're asking for a commutation of your sentence, which is you were sentenced February 21st, 2007 out of Caddo Parish for attempted first-degree murder, manslaughter. You received a 40-year sentence. I think you were sentenced, your parole eligibility date is in October of 2038. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, your case has been assigned to Mr. Marabella, so he'll start the interview process with you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Edwards, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great today, and how are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Mr. Edwards, how old are you, sir?
Right now, I'm 60. I'll be 61 June the 19th of this year.
And how long have you been in prison?
I've been in prison since 2004, October 2004.
So 16 years, give or take? 16 years, give or take?
Yes, sir.
I've reviewed your file, and it looks like you've taken a lot of programs. You've taken pre-release, Cage Your Age, Celebrate Recovery, drug abuse programs, Living in Balance. You are a Christian minister. You've taken sober groups. You're a reentry tutor. You've done carpentry, victim awareness. You've done a lot of really significant programs. Tell me, amongst those programs, which one of them has meant the most to you, and what do you think has been some of the most important things you've learned through those programs?
Well, I started the program off the biggest one for me when I went to Bible college. I had an opportunity to take Christian counseling, which has allowed me to take a better look at myself. And with those tools I gained from there, when I became a social mentor with the reentry guys, that's been a very, very important part for me there, because the tools I learned in Celebrate Recovery and the Bible college, I was able to implement in them young guys' life, because, that's something that brings me peace, and I'm able to share something with them to try to prevent them from being where I am right now. Because the drug use, that's one of my big things right there, because you see I'm a facilitator also for Celebrate Recovery. And by me being able to try to, steer them in a different direction from where I am, because I know from one thing, continued use of drugs and bring you to prison, death, or institution. So that's one of the biggest things that,
Mr. Edwards, you talked about drug abuse. My notes reflect that from your notes that you had a history with cocaine. Was that basically your drug of choice?
Yes, sir.
Tell me when did you first start using cocaine?
I started using cocaine in, 1989.
How old were you then?
I was 29 years old.
That's kind of late in life to start using cocaine. What happened? Why did you decide at 29 years old to start using cocaine?
Well, I don't know. For some strange reason, it seemed like my life went backwards, and In my early years, I wasn't using nothing. Then also I decided to try this, and from that point on, my life began to go down.
Tell me how you're going to be able to stay off of cocaine or drugs when you get out of prison.
Well, one thing, the biggest thing, when I went to cell-based recovery, dealing with the now, I began to understanding, admitting that I did have a problem for a long time. I try to, evade that, didn't want to admit that, but admitting that, and I found for myself, being a servant, serving others plays a big role in that, and I understand the value of others and also the value of my life, and that helps me out a whole lot.
What sort of tools do you think you've been able to gain in taking the various programs you've taken that you'll put in place when you get out of prison to make sure when things go bad, you're not going to revert back to doing drugs?
One of the biggest tools is communication, because for a while I was very isolated. I wasn't talking when things began to bother me, or I began to get urged. I wouldn't tell anyone, but now I see the importance of being able to communicate and also have that person in my life or persons in my life that I can go to in time of need. And they just, they be not listening to you, or the one that, hey, tell me and say, hey, but that's not the thing to do.
Are you talking about a sponsor, for example?
The sponsor, and also my kids, especially my daughter that speaks today, because she is just straight outright. So that's what I need in my life. I need that structure in my life, because I know in my life, as long as I got structure, there's balance.
Does that structure also include going to meetings like AA meetings and NA meetings?
Oh yeah, most definitely. That's a great part of it there, because like you like to see my record, that's something I continue to do. I facilitate it, and it helps a whole lot.
It certainly appears that you have done extremely well while you've been in prison. You have a low risk assessment, you have law enforcement opposition, and you have victim opposition. There's very little you can do about that. But in reviewing your file, it looks like you've worked very hard where you are. I've got some concerns, and I want to talk to you about that. In 1992, you was convicted of attempted murder of your aunt. You sliced her throat, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You went to prison, and then you good timed out, and then you committed this crime. So tell me how Charles Edwards has changed from the man who was in prison, probably took some programs back then, got out, committed another horrible crime, and finds himself in prison. How are you not that same person?
Well, one of the biggest things about this time is, like I say, the program like cell-based recovery, AA, NA, and the guys I run. Before, program-wise, took a few programs, but here I had an opportunity to take a whole lot more program than I had before. And it gave me an opportunity to really look at myself. I got sober, I was able to look at myself and see what I taking someone's life and where this going to lead to. So I said I had to make a decision then, because if I went so far as taking someone else's life, what would stop me from taking my own life? So I knew I had to do something. I had to make a change. That man had to die. So
what kind of work, or what are your plans if you are ultimately free at some point? What do you hope to do? Where do you hope to live?
I'm going to be living with my brother in Keithville. I'll be working with him at A1 Custom Coating. He do a lot of work for all field pipe coating. And also, I still love doing carpentry work. And one of my greatest passions is HVAC technician also.
Do you have any desire to do anything with your ministry degree?
Oh, yes, sir. That's the forefront there. I've been talking with my pastor concerning that, and we're going to work something out there, and I love to get back in prison ministry. That's what I really want to do.
Now, you were originally charged with second-degree murder, and the DA allowed you to plead guilty to manslaughter. And you entered a plea of guilty to manslaughter. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
They're now opposing. They do oppose your getting out. Their position is you got a really good deal back then, and you got your break. But since then, you've done a lot of positive things. So I appreciate your comments and answering my questions. Madam Chairman, those are all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabella. I don't see any other questions on the board. So Ms. Roten, if you could call on those who've indicated they'd like to speak.
Okay, at this time, we'll hear from Anthony Edwards, the son. I'm sorry, he's not speaking. I apologize. We'll hear from Stephanie Johnson, the daughter who will be speaking.
Hello. I'd first like to thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would like to start off by saying I am a daddy's girl. I did take it hard when he was locked up. It was hard on me. I feel like he deserves a second chance. I feel like he was running from God at the time, and God had to do something to get his attention. He's been in there for a while. I feel like he's accomplished a lot, and I think he'll do an excellent job with some of the young men that we have here to help steer them the right way. My kids miss him. They like to see him. He just plays an important role in my life. And I just pray that he's able to come home soon.
So it looks like that's, we do have some other participants that they indicated they don't want to speak this afternoon. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your remarks. Mr. Edwards, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to take this opportunity if the victim are listening, let them know I deeply regret what I have done. The life that I has taken is no longer there at Christmas time, no longer there at Thanksgiving. I have no excuse for it. The only thing I can offer is that I will make sure that my life will be a benefit to those around me, that I report on other men's and women's lives, make them better so they won't have to endure some of the things I endure in my life. So I just look at my life as I'm a servant. It's no longer about me anymore. I understand that. It's about what I can do for others. And again, I'd like to thank y'all for this opportunity. Thank y'all for this time. And thank the state of Louisiana for giving me an opportunity to go through the classes and the courses that I was able to go through to better my life. And thank y'all for that.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Mirabella, are you ready to vote?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Edwards, as I indicated earlier, you do have opposition. There's a letter from the district attorney's office indicating that they feel that you have gotten a good deal by being allowed to plead guilty to manslaughter as opposed to second-degree murder. Therefore, he requests that you stay in jail, and he talks about how brutal the murder is. Yet it was the DA who reduced the charge from second-degree murder to manslaughter. So that's what they decided to do. It's not our responsibility to sentence someone. Our responsibility is simply to sit and look and see what you've done as a result of what a judge did to you or with you. You have some excellent programs. You're low risk. You have done a lot of things. You convinced me that you know how to handle your cocaine addiction. It does bother me because of your past record. I mean, that past record is not good. It's horrible. You've explained and you've discussed with me a lot of the things that concern me. You've been in prison for almost 17 years. I don't know exactly how long it is, but how long have you been in prison actually?
Sir, Could you repeat
How
that?
long have you been in prison actual from the,
I mean, in Angola, I came to Angola in 2007, May 7th.
now when you were arrested though in 2000 and what?
October 2004 in Caddo Correction Center.
Okay.
So ever
So-
since 2001.
How long have you served on this 40-year sentence? 16 years?
Just about to be 17 years, yes, 16
Almost
is-
17.
Yes.
Almost 17. Based upon your prison record, based upon the low risk, based upon the programs that you've taken, based upon the support that you have, it would be my vote today to grant a commutation to make you parole eligible after you serve 17 years in prison. That would be my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabella. Mr. Wise?
Well, one of the things I have a problem with, you were incarcerated for a while and then you got back out and then you came back and this charge came back on you. I have a problem. I think you good time paroled in 01, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You good time paroled in 01 and your parole was revoked in 04 and it was revoked over this first degree murder and then it was dropped. Today I'm going to be voting to deny because of your prior criminal history and law enforcement victims' opposition to this release.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Edwards, based upon the entire legal community is opposed to early release, we have letters from the sheriff, we have letters from the DA's office, express opposition from the victim's family, poor supervision history. You were revoked in the 1990s and then revoked again in 2004. In your prior criminal history, my vote is to deny your request.
Mr. Edwards, you know the outcome from today because you know. My vote today, though, would be to grant your request, a commutation of sentence with parole eligibility after serving 17 years. And that my vote was based on you have good programs, your score is a low risk to reoffend, you have a good conduct record, having only one write-up, I believe. And the work that you do within your prison community, I consider that community service work as the reentry mentor and tutoring others in the Bible college. But today you've received 2 votes favorable, 2 unfavorable. So the outcome of today is that your application for clemency has been denied. Keep doing what you're doing, sir. Good luck to you.
All right. Thank you again for your time.
Well, this hearing took place on May the 17th of 2021, and we are going to fast forward to almost exactly 3 years, a little more, to June of 2024, June 11th of 2024, where he comes up for a rehearing, and it's going to be a whole new board panel because the new governor came in, and as many of you may know, the new governor gets handpicked who stays. Mr. O'Shea, Mr. Mirabella, Mr. Jim Wise has been gone for a while now. The only ones remaining are actually Mr. Freeman and Ms. Renatza. But we're going to see if he stands any better of a chance. But just think about this. He was in prison for cutting the throat of, I believe it was his aunt in 91. He gets out on parole and then commits another offense where he this time takes a life. There are certain times when people just don't get any more chances. I don't care how sophisticated and fancy your algorithm score thing is. Low risk. He's lucky he hasn't taken 2 lives. He was out on parole for cutting a throat of his aunt. And then he goes and does the same thing when he's out on parole. And and he would even get votes to get out. Let's see what happens now. Let's jump in.
Thank you. Today we have for parole consideration is Mr. Charles Edwards, who has, his DOC number is 310560. Sentence, three count felony. Offense, manslaughter. Sentencing date 2/21/207. Sentenced to 40 years of hard labor. Parole date 10/6/24. Good time behavior 6/22/44. Full term 10/5/2040. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Mr. Freeman. And he will start our interview.
Mr. Freeman, would you like Ms. Babin to make the opening statement now?
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Good morning, members of the panel. My name is Hannah Grace Babin, and I'm a 3L at LSU Law. Over the last few months, I have been helping Mr. Charles prepare for his parole hearing today. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles is a 64-year-old man, a father to 5, and a grandfather to 13. He is also a leader. For the past 15 months, Mr. Charles has been lead pastor with Leadership Builders, a Christian organization at LSP. In this role, he schedules weekly Bible studies, he gives weekly sermons, and also handles administrative matters, including the organization's finances. He's also a facilitator. For the past 12 years, he's been a Celebrate Recovery facilitator. Celebrate Recovery is a Christian-based substance abuse program. Mr. Charles has helped men not only achieve sobriety, but maintain it. It's often said that a teacher learns twice. Every time Mr. Charles teaches a class, he not only instills in these men the skills and tools they need, but he reinforces those tools and lessons in himself. And on top of all of that, Mr. Charles is also a reentry mentor and an academic tutor. Mr. Charles invests in the whole man. As a reentry mentor, he helps men who go out into society before him, learn life skills to be successful. And as an academic tutor, he helps young men who usually don't have a GED obtain that and succeed in their academics. As I stated earlier, Mr. Charles is 64 years old. He served 20 years of one incarceration of this charge. Statistically, he's at just above a 2% chance of being rearrested. His conduct report speaks for itself. He's only had one write-up in his 20 years of incarceration. He is not a risk to society. He has a low Tiger score as well. Mr. Charles, unlike in previous times, is prepared to succeed if this board is to grant him parole. He's got a strong reentry plan in place, including support from the Louisiana Parole Project and his family. He also has secured a job if this board is approved. However, he's not limited to that, as he has a trade degree in carpentry and plans to continue participating in ministry and fellowship. Members of the panel, Mr. Charles understands the impact that his crime had on the community, and he does not plan to return to Caddo Parish, as he knows he caused harm there. The Louisiana Parole Project has set up to where he would have long-term housing in Baton Rouge. These are just a few things that I wanted to highlight for this panel about Mr. Charles. I ask that you ask him any other questions that you need to show that he has been rehabilitated and he is not the same man that he was 20 years ago. Thank you so much for allowing me to give this opening.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Charles, let's get to your investigation. Okay, how old are you, Mr. Charles?
64.
And what's your educational level?
I have my Bachelor of Art in Christian Education.
Okay, and how many years have you served on this charge?
19 years and 8 months.
All right. All right, Mr. Edwards. You got out in 2001, and while you were on parole, this event happened. Tell me what happened.
Well, on the night in question, me and Miss Vicky Brown was consuming cocaine, and once the cocaine was depleted, I had asked her if she had any more money about purchase anything else, and she said no. And my addiction began to take control over me. I allowed my addiction to take control, and that's when I took Miss Vicky Brown life and I split her throat. And doing
So attempt to try to get money off of her to go buy more drugs?
yes, sir.
And how long have you been on drugs?
Uh,
What age you start?
I started using drugs around about 28 or 29 years old. And from that point on, my life began to take a nosedive. When that happened, I realized what the depth of my decision making has took me, because I was rising to the top. But once I started using cocaine, my life went to the bottom. And especially after I took Miss Vicky Brown life, I seen where my decision, where my addiction had brought me to. And that's when I knew I had to begin to make some changes in my life. That's why when I had opportunity to come here at LSP with the programming that they had offered, I began to take advantage of it, dealing with my substance abuse, and not only that, but also dealing with my rejection issue, my anger issue, and my rejection issue. So that's been my goal to begin to deal with me, because I see that I had a problem. And my goal was, while I was here, begin to rebuild me, because that's who I was not created to be that.
Okay. You went to pick up what, your girlfriend?
This is at a time, yes, sir.
Okay, and you knew you was in trouble because you had shaved your head, changed your appearance, you had rented a car with drugs, paid for with drugs, and you told her not to go home. And that's where she found the body. Okay. Tell me about the attempted first-degree murder charge, the one you were on for when this happened.
That was my attempted murder charge happened again. I went to my aunt. She was my aunt. I asked to borrow some money from her, and she said no. And that's when I hit her, and I cut her throat, and then I left the house. I ran, and I was arrested later on that day.
You have very strong opposition from law enforcement, the victim's husband, Miss Nicole Russell, her daughter and her husband, Brendan Jordan, the brother of the victim, is strongly opposed. And the husband felt that he kind of got pushed into a plea deal. He didn't realize that 40 years wasn't 40 years and you'd be up for parole after 19. You've had one DB report, which is great. You've had very good classes. You're a mentor, correctly? Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Teach any classes?
Yes, sir. I
Get
teach.
back there and go. How do you give back to your community at Angola?
And Angola, great thing is I've part of the reentry program. I do teach class. I teach Celebrate Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, Thinking for a Change. Also, in very life skill class like Inside Out Dad, I also teach that. And also I give back to the community through the fellowship leadership builders. We have a concession where we raise money. We also give back to the inmate population through giving hygienes and providing different things for different holidays, meeting different needs for different people, different dormitories. And also I give up my time dealing with guys in the cell block. I also make rounds in on the hospital ward. So I make use of myself, because now I realize my life is all about serving. I'm a servant. And before I thought it was all about me, but I know it's not about me. I know it's me giving to others. And one thing I tell my guys, my mentees is, I'm gonna give you everything positive that I know, and you put it with what you know. You're going to be a better man than me. And my mission in life now is make men, women, boys, and girls better than me.
Okay. Looking at the criminal history, you got charged with the attempted murder, and I think you received 17 years. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. And when you got out, you committed this offense, and you pled to manslaughter. So that was a break there because they let you plead to manslaughter, and second, they ran it concurrent with your other time. So the max you had to serve was the 40 or when your release date came. So I just wanted to point that out to my fellow board members, and I have no further questions.
Mr. Morris, Mr. Freeman covered that well. He got all of my questions. I just have one question. It seems like both of these cases are similar in that when your aunt told you she didn't have any money for your drug habit, you stabbed her and beat her in the head with a skillet. When your girlfriend told you, or not a girlfriend, whoever she was, the next lady, Ron, she told you she didn't have any more money. You stabbed her and put an extension cord around her neck and choked and stabbed her and killed her. I'm wondering, how do we know that you won't do this behavior again? That's how you dealt with it before. One time, here's the next time, how do we feel? Try to make us feel that there's something that you won't deal with that again. We don't want to hear about that again.
Yes, sir. Well, my plan is this here. My first incarceration, I spent 8.5 years of my life preparing to come out and fail because I didn't address the issues that need to be addressed. This time around, I've seen where my decision making has got me, my addiction, my substance abuse. I took someone's life. First time ever close, but this time I took someone's life. That's when I knew I had to do something with my life. Because before I started using drugs, I had a successful life. But once I started using the drug, my life began to go off course. So that's when I knew I had begun to deal with my substance abuse. So with that, I began to deal with, got in AANA. I also had to deal with my anger issues. That's where conflict management thinking for a change came in. And not only that, dealing with those issues, I had begun to deal with my spiritual issues also because I had some bad foundation. And also I had to begin to learn how to deal with rejection because I had to allow other things to begin to control my life instead of being in control of myself. So my journey since I came to LSP was begin to work on me and get me back to be the man that I was created to be. So that's why every opportunity I had to get involved with a program that would benefit me, that would help me grow, I took advantage of it. So that's the difference in the man you see today than the man committed this crime 19 years and 8 months ago, because now I realize life is very valuable. And I does not have the right to take anyone's life. I'm not God, and I realize that it's something I have to live with on a daily basis. And I'm ashamed of what I've done. I regret what I've done. I apologize to the Brown family for the pain and anguish that I caused them. But my duty in my life today is to help those who coming behind me, that they will not fall in the situation that I'm in today. Something I have to deal with each and every day of my life. It was a horrible thing. I take responsibility. I was guilty of it because I refused to acknowledge that I had serious issues in my life. But now I know, and I know now that I have to deal with it on a daily basis. I know this addiction will be with me for the rest of my life. So therefore, I have to continue to deal with my sobriety, continue to go to classes, continue to educate myself, and most of all, continue to serve others.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
I have no questions. The staff have any comments there? Please.
Yes, I can tell you that Mr. Edward has been an integral part of our reentry court program. He mentors to the mentees that come in our reentry court program, and he's also a part of our multidisciplinary team when we have to counsel the offenders on their behavior. He's real passionate about reentry. He's really passionate about telling the guys, what to do, they needed to do, interpersonal skills and life skills to reintegrate back into society and become a successful person. He's a minimum B trustee that's assigned to our MAG dorm, and he also facilitates some of our programs. He finished Tyro Leadership, which is a program that based out of Ohio that teaches men to learn to be leaderships and to take the crime that they have committed and turn it into something positive towards other people so that they won't go down that same road. I think Mr. Edwards is a positive person. I think he's ready to go back into society.
Thank you so much. Today we have in support Ms. Stephanie Johnson.
Yes. Good morning.
Okay.
My name is Stephanie Johnson. I am the second eldest child of Mr. Charles, and I'm speaking on behalf of my sister, Dr. Christina Bailey, Shamika Edwards, my two brothers, Anthony Edwards and Charles Edwards Jr. I want to start by saying my dad is a good person, an awesome father, and my number one supporter. He's also has helped me get through some trying times. And for some reason, he always feels when something's not right because he calls. And he has helped me get through a lot of issues that I'm having here while he's incarcerated. I know he has made mistakes. He's far from perfect. The first time that he did get out, me personally, I didn't feel as if he was ready mentally. This go round, I see 360. He has changed. He has taken the pre-release program, drug abuse program, victim awareness, and he also facilitates as well. I'm sorry. I feel like my dad will be a great mentor to those who are taking the wrong path now. Granting my dad parole will be an opportunity for redemption and to be a great asset to his community. He has a very strong support system, not only me and my siblings, but my aunts, my uncles, and a host of nieces and nephews that's going to stand behind him 100% to make sure that he does not go down this path again.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Ron Hicks.
Good morning to this board. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak on behalf of Mr. Charles Edwards. I speak as an eyewitness to his transformation, his rehabilitation, his education, and his community service. I also was incarcerated at Angola, Louisiana State Prison for 33 years, and this honorable board took it up on themselves to give me the opportunity to be released. I can tell you, working with Mr. Charles from the time that he entered into prison, his rehabilitation is legit. It's real. I've watched him over the years address his issues as it relates to substance abuse. I watched him address his issues related to anger management and do all of the approved programs that DOC has put in place to help men re-enter back into society because they've done the work and contributed back to the community in which they live. Mr. Charles has been an exceptional example of what rehabilitation looks like. And I think that this honorable board will be doing a great job of assessing all the things that Mr. Charles have done over the years. I'll leave you with this story that is when I got ready to transition out of prison, I was leading Leadership Builders, that ministry for the last 24 years. And the man that's sitting behind Mr. Charles, who is Pastor Waters, we both were working in this ministry together, and we were looking for someone to take the lead to continue this ministry because we had a real impact in the community of Angola. And our decision process led us to choose Mr. Charles Edwards as the next leader of Leadership Builders. And I think that we made the right decision by putting him at the helm of that ministry to keep it going forward and keep ministering to the people that are incarcerated. I'll close with these statements that Mr. Charles, if given the opportunity by this board to be released, we are 100% behind him to help him with his transition, to plug him into ministry. We just started a ministry in Baton Rouge called The Sanctuary, and Mr. Charles will have access to worship at that ministry, to be a part of that ministry, to contribute back to the society and the community where he will reside as a law-abiding citizen and a contributor to the community where he lives. It would be my request that this board would grant Mr. Charles Edwards release on parole. Thank you for your time and giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Mr. Myers.
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. I think we all know that addiction destroys lives. I think we also all know that through recovery, recovery saves lives. Not only the person in recovery, Mr. Edwards has also shown that through the work he's done at Angola, through his being a mentor, through the fact that he is a leader there, he's saving lives. He's moving lives on a different path. I think he said it best himself as to why he is the man he is today. I can tell you that Parole Project is prepared to offer him our full support through transitional long-term housing. He has employment waiting for him. Even though his parole eligibility date is in October, he'll have a job waiting for him when he's released after he finishes our phase 1 reentry program. We'll provide him with the tools he needs. We'll provide him with the mentorship he needs. We'll provide him with the guidance that he needs. I think this board already knows what Parole Project can do, has done, and I believe that two things happen when the person who comes to us is ready to accept that. What we offer, the success speaks for itself. So I would just ask this board to grant Mr. Edwards his parole today.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hannah has already spoken, hasn't she? DA. I thought she'd be last. Yeah, she needs me. Next, we'll have an opposition. Mr. Fitzgerald. We have a Fitzgerald.
Did the offender give disclosing statement?
No.
Good morning. Hold on, Ms. Fitzgerald. The offender needs to give his closing statement and the attorney needs to close it out. And then we'll go to the opposition.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Mr. Edwards, you want to give your closing statement, please?
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to thank
I'm
this.
sorry for interrupting, but Mr. Brown, was Mr. Brown going to speak?
Appropriate time is let the offender give his closing statement and the attorney.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
I'd like to thank this honorable board for giving me this opportunity to come before y'all today to present my case. I'm greatly honored for this time, and also I want to share my regrets and apologize for taking the life of Miss Vicky Brown. I want to apologize to her family for robbing them of the holidays, the family photos, the anniversaries, and the different family events that she's no longer part of because of my selfish action. And also, I want to apologize to the law enforcement, the paramedics, to all those who were involved with the crime scene, how I disrupted their life. And also, I want to apologize also to my family for the shame and embarrassment that I brought upon them. I know that my life has created a lot of pain, but also I want to thank LSP for giving me an opportunity to take the classes that I needed to help rebuild me to be the man that I was created to be. I want to thank them for allowing me to take a victim awareness. I could begin to see the depth of the harm that I cause other people, and also could understand the depth of empathy also. And also I want to thank them for giving me an opportunity to deal with my substance abuse, my rejection, my anger problem. And now that they taught me different classes like dealing with living in balance, learning how to live on a daily basis, making the right decision when things arise. And I also was able to further my education, getting a Bachelor of Art in the Northern Baptist Seminary, and also I able to get a carpentry degree. So I've been about building my whole man, even not just about the physical man, not just about the mental man, but the spiritual man also. And my life mission is now, I gave up my life when I took Miss Vicky Brown life, and my mission now is to help give life to others who the image is trying to destroy. So my mission today is to help men, women, boys, and girls to begin to see life for what it truly is, to be a servant to others, that we all continue to grow and be the men that we were created to be. So I want to thank you again for this time. I want to thank y'all for this privilege. And again, I say thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll hear from Mr. Ms. Hutchinson. Okay. Did you
Thank
want?
you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, board. Again, Adrienne Hutchison here with the LSU Law Parole Clinic. In 2004, when Mr. Charles pled guilty to manslaughter, he was sentenced to 40 years. The final statement of the court in that plea agreement, the judge said, Mr. Edwards, I hope at some point down the line you can achieve some degree of redemption for this horrific crime. Today, I believe Mr. Edwards has presented you with his redemption. Redemption from a drug-addicted man who valued narcotics, the narcotics that he was addicted to over everything else. I believe he showed you that he addressed the root cause of his addiction, where he valued the cost of those drugs over the value of life. But I'd like to ask the board to pay special attention to when he started it. Mr. Charles took his first substance abuse class in 2006. Mr. Charles wasn't eligible for the opportunity for parole until 2021. He was 16 years into his incarceration and his rehabilitation before he even had an opportunity for early release. The work that Mr. Charles has presented to you was all done before that opportunity. It was all done with the intention this time of changing and becoming a better man and redeeming himself. One of the things that Mr. Charles and I have talked about is the value of a life now. He's immersed himself in his Christian faith, and the value of life is astronomical to compare to where he felt then, because he views all of God's children the same. He would never hurt another person. I know there's been concern about his supervision history, and I know Ms. Grace has talked about statistically Mr. Charles is aged out of the time period in which he would produce another crime. And for what it's worth, he's done so much work here. He's shown you in his record that he's no longer that person. He's demonstrated it. Recidivism also factors in the level of support. We've seen that he will have support from not only the Louisiana Parole Project, but all those in the ministry. You've seen letters from people that he's volunteered and assisted and mentored over the years that are in a better place because of his service to them. He's prepared himself both spiritually and through education and carpentry. He's done programming. He's done all the necessary changes. And again, he did all this long before he had the opportunity to come home. And just, I did want to make sure the board was clear that although he has not, he's right at 19 months, his parole eligibility date would be at his 20-year mark. So I asked this board to look at the redemption that Mr. Charles has presented to you, and with the disciplinary record that he's shown you, and understand that Mr. Charles is no longer a threat to society and can be released to help others on the outside as he has done inside. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from Mr. Brown, Kenneth Brown. You're on mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Vicky was my wife, and when this happened, Mr. Edwards there destroyed my life. He destroyed the lives of Vicky's two daughters, her grandkids, her parents, her brothers, her sisters, her cousins. You know, Charles Edwards did not kill just Vicky. He killed a whole arm of a family there. And let me tell you, there's a couple things I want to clarify here that I heard mentioned earlier. One, after he had killed her, he shaved his head and then he got in a rental car and left. He didn't have a rental car. He was driving my car that he had stolen. He went through her pockets, blood all over her, where she's laying on the floor of that filthy house, bleeding to death with no conscience on his part. He went through her pockets, took any money she might have had, took her keys to that car, got in that car. He took her cell phone too, went to using that. And he run that car all over the place. You know, oh, poor me, look what I've done. You know, he took an electrical cord. You know, they made this, he made it sound like it just happened so fast. He took her life. He took her life. He took that electrical cord, these are his words, and he choked her out with that electrical cord until she passed out. Okay? Not once, but many times she kept waking up. And finally, he took that cord and choked her out till she passed out. Then he took a knife of some kind and he slit her throat. And he slit her throat. Why? Why did he slit her throat? He could have stood up and walked out. He could have, you know, left her there. He didn't have to kill her. He was on the street after already attempting murder. You know, he was in prison for attempted murder. And you guys saw fit to turn him loose. And once you turned him loose, he got on the street and he killed my wife. You guys turn him out, put him on the street again. Whose wife is he going to kill now? Maybe one of your board members right there. If you guys choose to put it out, that I can't do nothing about that. But I am totally and completely against him being released. He's a menace to society, and he should never be turned loose out on the street. I don't realize any other way that I can state it more strongly. I am very, very emotional about it even today. 19 years, 8 months, as he says. Well, 19 years and 8 months is not enough time. I don't care if it's 60 years. It's not enough time. He needs to set himself right where he's at and think about what he done the rest of his life. Just like he took her life, his life needs to be thrown away too. All right, I'm through ranting. I appreciate y'all listening to me today. I hope you make the right decision here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ms. Fitzgerald will give the closing statement, please.
Good morning. I'm Leanne Fitzgerald. I'm with the Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office and District Attorney James Stewart. I'm the director of the Victim Assistance Program. Mr. Brown, you and I have not met, but I do appreciate you testifying today and your comments. I defer to what Mr. Brown said as far as the trauma that this family has been through at the hands of Mr. Edwards. There were other family members who were consulted with by the Victim Assistance Coordinator, Kristen Parsons. They're not on today, but Ms. Brown's daughter, Nicole Russell, did make a statement in writing. I'm sure the board has reviewed it, but she did speak of how she's never been able to get over the loss of her mother, and she still lives with anger today over what happened. Mr. Brent Jordan, who is the brother of Vicki Brown, expressed his strong opposition in writing and told how close he was to his sister and had in fact spoken to her on the day that she was murdered. And Mr. Brown and the aftermath, just dealing with not knowing where his wife was, strangers answering her cell phone. I can't even imagine what that's like. And so, yes, Mr. Edwards has done some impressive things in prison, and I appreciate that. I recognize that. And I hope that he will be a much needed mentor to other young people. But, I can't put aside how very violent these offenses were. I mean, he didn't take a gun and shoot someone. He beat his own aunt. And then, with Miss Vicky Brown, strangling her with an extension cord, slitting her throat from side to side. I've never been on drugs, but that level of violence just makes you wonder how someone is capable of such a thing and such a disregard for human life, drugs or no drugs. And so, as we discussed, he has performed poorly under supervision before. He has seemed to flourish within the confines of prison, but that's a huge risk on society to let him out at this point and just hope for the best, basically, because he's performed well in prison. This was a torturous, horrible death for Vicky Brown. And basically what it all boils down to from the standpoint of my office is that he is just now at the halfway point of a 40-year manslaughter sentence. And at this point, has he paid his debt to Vicky Brown and her family and to society? And it's our office's opinion that no, 20 years of a 40-year sentence is not enough. It's just not commensurate with the crime that he committed. And so we respectfully ask that his parole be denied. And we thank you for the chance to speak.
Thank you so much. Is the board ready to vote? I am. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Edwards, terrific family support. You have a great disciplinary record. You have very good classes, tremendous community service to Angola. And I commend you for that. But the bottom line is, that's the second person, and it's lucky your aunt didn't die. And now you have this one, and you hadn't done but 19 years and 8 months. That is not near enough time for the offense you committed. So my vote is to deny.
Mr. Morris?
I agree with what Mr. Freeman said and what Ms. Leona said. You really did get a good deal with a 40-year sentence for this charge, and then got another good deal to have it run concurrent with the first charge. Again, I would commend you just like he did on your work there, your rehabilitation. I don't doubt that you're the person you say you are now. It's just a problem with the situation of those charges. So today I'm going to have to vote to deny it based on the heinous and violent nature of the crimes and your previous conviction for attempted first-degree murder charge in 1993, the strong opposition from law enforcement and the victim's family. But keep up the good work, and you're going to be coming back and see us again. So as time goes on, I think your chances will improve.
Mr. Edwards, I concur with my colleagues, and I hope that you continue the work you're doing, and if things change, it may be different. This concludes our meeting for today.
Okay, so let's unpack this. And to start, I don't have any information because he didn't go to trial. They gave him plea deals, so there's nothing to read. It should look, but there's nothing there. There actually was someone with the same name who had done a different type of crime, but it's not him. So the first question I know I asked was, wait a minute, how come we just watched his commutation hearing that took place 3 years ago? Why was he having a commutation hearing and now he was denied and now has a parole hearing? And the answer is Act 122. Act 122, which was legislation heavily lobbied by, who would you know, the Parole Project. As you can see, they were there ready to support him with his attorneys reading off a ballot pitch like that of American Idol contestant or something. And as Richard pointed out, and the whole thing with Act 122 was, hey, because remember, he was just denied his commutation hearing, is, well, you turn 20 years old. Sorry, you've served 20 years in prison. You're over the age of 45. You become parole eligible. It's like, well, why not? Why not? Because, well, Louisiana had a reputation for too many inmates. Older inmates are very expensive. So let's make legislation. Let's pass a bill that moves, the tax dollars from the DOC to a different program. Looks good on the balance sheet. It was a dual bipartisan, movement. Everyone was happy because everyone can blow their horns and say, look, we've solved the incarceration problem in Louisiana. And really, it's just a gimmick. But you had the Louisiana parole project that gets paid this taxpayer dollars. They consider it a non-for-profit, but they are representing their clients, and that's why they were there, trying to get him to be a client of theirs. Now, he gets out anyways in 3 years. It's like, I don't know if he gets out, if good time means he'll go to the parole project or not. But he gets out anyways in 3 years. This whole thing was just kind of like whatever. And it's so easy to forget. And thank goodness for the husband, the victim, to show up and just lay down very plain facts. Thanks to the DA for showing up. Interesting how she wasn't there before. I don't know. Interesting how she hasn't met the victim. This is the first time. I don't know. But she was there. And she made good points. This is not like I feel like the crazy person in the room. We're talking about a man who his own aunt, his blood relative, he sliced her throat from ear to ear. She somehow doesn't die, but he gets the sentence of attempted homicide. He gets out on parole, and within 3 years does kill someone. This is not someone that should ever be in society. There are no number of programs, there are no number of anything that can justify a risk. People who have that type of, who have that ability to, that impulsiveness, that bloodthirstiness, that inside of them, you cannot risk it. He's only 60 years old. He'll be 63 when he gets out. That's plenty of strength. You can go and find someone else to harm. And you're saying, what, a low risk? He's just, it was just the drugs. He wouldn't do it again. Well, then he's just one binge away from doing it again. At a certain point, you have to say, I am sorry. We just cannot risk. It's not worth the chance. That person's life, whatever the chance is, what they say, oh, it's a 2% chance of recidivism. Yeah, well, that data obviously is super skewed. What are you saying? People over 60 who get out are 2%? Yeah, well, what about people over 60 who attempted to kill who slit 2 people's throats in their lives in a 14-year period? Why don't you take that data and then tell me, are they a low chance of doing it again? And it's common sense to anyone, I think, with critical thinking skills, because just sit down across from me and let's have the argument. You're going to take a risk, right? We don't know. We don't know if he's going to go pull a knife out and do this to someone else. We don't know if he's going to go and end up, taking a hit of that stuff, Pepsi Cola, run out of money, and just fall right back into his innate nature. And then what are you going to say? I'm sorry. We thought he deserved a third chance. Make it make sense. But he's getting out anyways in good time. And the prosecutors, they make these deals back in the day. And like I said, people are confused. They have no idea how the law works. And that's because the law is sketchy. Victims don't understand. They don't. Anyways, that's my soapbox. And with that, I'll let you go.